So this is a lecture from Italy, from the last visit of Gurudev there. We're starting now to listen and translate. Gurudev is starting to explain how the indigenous people in South America are actually meditating and constantly repeating to each other the knowledge which they're passing from the thousands of years ago. Like people generally are not so much meditating on meaning of life, but the natural tribes and people on earth, they spend all night meditating. These are cultures which have not had any books. So the only way they could preserve their knowledge is speaking about it all the time, continuously. This was the way how they have been transferring their culture, and the same way it was in India. Like 5,000 years ago, the Vedic culture has been put in a script for the first time in the history, but it has existed for thousands of years before that. People had amazing capacity of memory. Nowadays, the things are much more difficult. But being here this evening, united here, I would like to invite all of you to unite with me in one traveling, in a traveling of thinking about sense of life. In the psychology, there is only one psychologist who have put all this. It's called Viktor Frankl, who came from Vienna. He was psychiatrist. He has been put in Auschwitz. He was captured by the Nazis. But somehow he could survive 4 different concentration camps. They killed his wife, his mother, father, and all his family members. Viktor Frankl is the founder of the logotherapy. He's explaining that a person doesn't know what's the sense of life. He becomes burned out just by one small stick. He doesn't have a resistance. He becomes very easily depressive, unenthusiastic. But when one really knows why he lives, he has a real motivation to fight for it, to struggle for it. He becomes actually even more powerful by the obstacles and difficulties. Like in the proverb, the necessity is the mother of invention. If there is no necessity, one just falls asleep. And if things become very tough, one gets to think, okay, what should I do now? So the difficulties are also very welcome in the Vedic philosophy. even the most difficult, greatest difficulties of all, which is the death. Because finally, death is like our everyday bread. Each day on the planet Earth are dying around 200 million people. Can you imagine how many deaths are those? But this does not mean that death is more important than life. Otherwise, we would just keep speaking about death, not about life. But we cannot ignore actually the fact that life is preparation for the death as well. That's why it is called Adhatu Brahmacirya. That the human form of life exists in order to get to know what's the meaning of life, of existence. Logotherapy is emphasizing that a person has to accomplish many things here in life. This is it's comparable with the word dharma, the prescribed duties as it is described in Bhagavad Gita. And this dharma, this topic is about spirituality. That's the most interesting thing which is in Bhagavad Gita, is when Krishna says, abandon all types of dharma, of prescribed duties. Imagine, first he's establishing the dharmas, and at the end he says, just abandon all these dharmas. I'm coming here to preserve, to reestablish dharma. I'm coming to this world when dharma is decreasing, declining. But when Krishna says that we have to abandon dharma, he's speaking about the conclusion of everything. And that conclusion is the most important. Why to abandon dharma? Why to abandon the prescribed duty? And the response is very simple. Because of love. When love is ruling, dharma becomes secondary. For this reason, we should not be very ritualistic. We have to remember that we are here to discover love. There are people who are very ritualistic, accomplish this, they have calendar, they have instruction about each small detail. But sometimes they're not flexible. And when somebody needs them, they tell you, no, I have no time, I'm very occupied with my regulations. And Krishna says, no, that's not like this. The regulations are helping to get the essence. The one who worships regulations above the essence, he remains without the essence. Well, let's see, what's the essence? we have to speak, but first I'm going to sing you some kind of mantras. We're chanting healing chants. I was singing today, such in the hospital. So the healing is something very fundamental for the one who is sick. Those who does not feel sick can sit on this side. If you have any kind of sickness, just sit wherever you are. Keep sitting there. The music of healing is for everyone. It's coming from the source of the invisible, invisible for our eyes. But this is the healing which is uniting us with the very source of life. A little bit what is written here on the door, the same text. But we actually have to get to know the fundamental. And this is it looks like invisible one. But the scientists, they want to see it in another way. They want to see with the microscopes, with the telescopes. Now they have some billion apparatus to be able to look some very small particles. And how they call it? It's like the particle of God. And tomorrow they want to put that this is all rights reserved on this thing. Now we are putting patent on Lord as well. But when a person tries to see the things with his own eyes, he actually moves more in the darkness as a blind one. Because the invisible doesn't want to be just ready to be seen. All of us have invisible things. It's called your mind. You don't want to reveal your mind unless somebody you feel so nice like you that about him that you want to reveal your mind to him. And then you make visible the thing which is invisible. The same way the Lord can reveal to you the invisible when He desires so. And very many important things become manifested. It should be for those who can stand to wait for the systematic existence of the invisible. And for this there is also medicine. The mantras are actually some type of medicinal music, like healing music. So that one can tune himself in a correct way to this kind of topics before chanting this, I would like to present you all the people who are accompanying me here. First, there is Paramatmadas. Applauses for him. He's from Switzerland. He's in charge of the Paramatma meditation course in the internet. If you're interested, he can give you after all the information how to get this online course. Also with me has come here Satvika Bava, the director of the Institute of Veda Therapy, Bulgaria. Veda therapy is the development of the logotherapy towards the dimensions of Shraddha, of faith. It's called perennial psychology because it is analyzing the first appearance of faith in the of mechanism of getting knowledge in our life, how they appear. The origin of the appearing of consciousness. For example, a lot in the psychology you study what's the impact of your childhood which you get. But in the perennial psychology, we actually study the psychology in its origin, in the origin of the existence. Sorry. This is another topic. If you're very interested, you can get a contact with her. Here is also Prabhu Krishna Kirtan here together with us. He's half Italian because the better part of him, she's Italian. And he's from Poland. So we are very happy that he's accompanying us. Moreover, she's taking care of a project which is called Bhagavad Gita with music in Portuguese from one of the best musicians of Brazil. She's making the clips of each song. She's making a very big presentation in a very high style for those who are appreciating music and art. Applauses here. This shortly the presentation. Thank you very much for inviting me here. For me, this is very big happiness to meet with you, to be able to share with you which I have been gifted from my sadhus, saintly persons. Because the sadhus, they are people who are actually giving as gifts different things. These are things which are in the spiritual world. So they are able to put the invisible things in sweet words. And these invisible sweet words can actually reach our heart. And when this happens, something inside of us wakes up. And it appears one light. And this light we have to follow. This is the light which is going to bring us to the goal of life. Thank you. We are going to Vrindavan, though we are here in a room in Italy. But now this is here like Vrindavan, thanks to the sadhus. Gurudev is offering his here Paramadvaiti after the kirtan. The place here is called Chaitanya Academy. Shri Chaitanya Academy ki jai. What can break the regulations, the rules? We are speaking now about the rules and regulations. Let's speak how and when they can be actually be broken. When we can break many rules. There are many regulations in life. They have been put on us by the ordinary lifestyle. There are many like institutional regulations. There are so many rules coming from the justice system. In the tradition in which we have been educated, for example, there are other regulations which are written. Many times people become even proud because of regulations. They think we are better than the others because we have more regulations. Because I have more days. Sorry, I couldn't catch. Some is fasting more, the other is waking up a little earlier. So the religious life is full of these kind of things. Each one of those regulations has some kind of importance. I don't want to joke with the regulations actually because they're nice in order to organize life. Many times persons practice the regulations and many times they forget why actually they do so. I will give you for one example. In one temple in south of India, there was one Swami who was giving very nice lectures. And with the time he became famous. Many people were coming to listen to his lectures. He also became a spiritual master. He initiated many disciples. They were having some cat in this temple, and this cat, exactly when he was giving the lecture, he was entering among the audience, and he was like pushing his body against each one of the people sitting there. And the Swami was like disturbed by this. He didn't like that the cat is disturbing the people, and people, instead of listening to the lecture, they were starting to play with this cat. So he made some solution. Before the lecture, he was catching the cat, bringing him to the garden, and he was tying him to some tree. After the lecture, he was going again to it and untying it. So like this, many years have passed, and as things in world are, the masters also pass away. So the teacher have passed away, and his most advanced student, he took over his responsibility. So now when he was giving class each day, he was following the example of his guru. Just before the class, he was tying the cat, and after the lecture, he was untying him. And as things in life are, the cat also passed away, but the ashram took a new cat, so they were tying the new cat again and untying after the class. 2 generations later, one of the disciples of this great master, he wrote a book about the esoteric significance to tie a cat before a lecture and to untie a cat after the lecture. So this is just a story, and there are many such cases. Regulations which nobody anymore understands, but they follow it very profoundly and defend it also as well. Because like this, our masters have been doing it, and like this you should do it. Well, I will tell you one more story, but a little bit heavy. This is coming from Ujjain, where the Mela was, Kumbh Mela. It has happened many years ago because this story actually is in Bhagavatam. What happened there was the following. The king Bharatri, he was very nice. He was a really loving king. He was loving his people, his family he was loving too. He had 2 wives. He was actually the one who lived there in the Kumbh Mela of Ujjain. Every 12 years, they're celebrating the Kumbh Mela of Ujjain on the river Chipra. Everyone is going to. I just came back from this Mela, which just closed now. So this king, he loved very much his wife. One person came to him and gave him a special gift and told him, the one who is going to eat this fruit, he will never get sick. This was like some kind of papaya. So the people said, oh, how wonderful. Thank you so much for this benediction. So who mostly deserves this, who will never get sick again? This is my favorite wife. So he gave the fruit to the wife. Once you eat it, you will never get. I'm giving this to you because I love you so much. But this queen, she had a lover. He was actually like the carer, the one who was taking care of horses, and she was thinking, oh, this fruit will make him never to get sick. My lover, he deserves that. This is the best gift I can give to him. So the queen gave it to the lover. So now her lover, he was pleasing the queen, and he had another lover which he loved more, liked more. And she was some concubine which was there in the city. And as she was very noble, she was noble, so he wanted this woman actually to get the benefit of this fruit. And he said to her, if you eat this fruit, you will never get sick. That's why I'm giving it as a special gift to you. But the concubine was thinking, I'm so fallen. How I can eat such a nice fruit? I do not deserve that. The only one who deserves this is our king. So She went to the king and said, "I would like to offer you this fruit to you. This will make you never to get sick." So the king saw the fruit which he actually gave as a present to his wife. And he said, "No, I'm going to find out what has happened here." He called to each one who gave to the other, who gave to the other, who gave to the other. And then he found out all the betrayal. And next day he went to the forest. And they thought he would never come back. How sad he was. But it was not true. The king was thinking, "This queen, I loved her so much. She betrayed me with this horsekeeper. So I want to know what has happened with the other one. Does she love me?" So he changed his clothes with the costumes and went back to the queen, and so he has sent his secretary to tell that he died in the forest. He wanted actually to see how she's going to react. And when the queen heard that her husband died in the forest, she got a heart attack and she died. And the king said, "Oh, the one was cheating me, the other I have killed her." In this life there is no happiness. Bardahari, he went to one cave, and there in the very place of Ujjain, and he never left. He renounced all his belongings, and he lived in this cave where very close to the place where Krishna and Balaram, when they were small, they were in the Gurukula of their Guru Sandipani Muni. In other words, not everything in life is as it looks. Sometimes somebody lives in tremendous illusions, including about his own spirituality. That's why it's very important that one realize to get things or to accept things which have been revealed from authentic sources. Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, he said in one occasion to his disciples that they should do everything possible to actually feed, to to support the family of the devotees, and for this they need to become very loving. In such a way, so loving that nobody will desire anymore to live Krishna consciousness once he gets to know this very loving devotee. And Srila Prabhupada, he was pushing us into this direction. He said that the relationship between devotees is based on love and trust. And this love and trust has no regulations. This is something which gets birth and then flow like a river which is going and flowing to search its own path. You know, every time that waters come down from the mountain, the water is searching for its own path. Sometimes can change the direction. Anything can happen with one. So actually in the spiritual path, when one is walking, he can walk in a zigzag. This way, that way, the other, but he goes his own way. And the point is that you don't know actually what is the next turn. The same way how the rivers are flowing in the river. One devotee is invited. By the path of self-realization. To leave all his difficulties of life and to get home to his home of God. And maybe he's going to ask, isn't there any very sure map which I have to follow? So the answer is, there are many maps. The scriptures are actually full of maps. But you actually have to follow your heart to be able to catch the path which is actually yours. If you think that the others will make it instead of you, you're in mistake. It's not that the Guru is going to get self-realization for you. He can teach you some indications that you get to know. But you individually, you have yourself to self-realize yourself. You have to apply your distinction. You have to catch what is appropriate, what is good, what is bad. And in order to understand this, you have to surrender. You have to completely surrender. You have to risk actually also. You should not search for that everything will be given to you pre-truth. The formulas are given But only by applying these formulas one can actually find out what is going to come. And love is actually something similar. You cannot catch the love. You cannot catch it and hold it like in a prison. It's flying completely. And this is actually the basis is everything what is important. That's why I wanted to say this to you. Regulations are very beautiful, but don't take it so seriously. But relationships, yes, this you take very seriously. The authentic what one is. Everything depends on this. To become authentic. Yeah, and this authenticity is actually that you confess or admit when you do not understand. What this means then? This is that we have to admit that we do not understand anything. But our ego doesn't like this, of course. Oh, I've studied 20 years this process and still I don't understand anything? The great sage Sanatan Goswami, who said to Mahaprabhu, they call me erudite, but I'm actually not understanding anything. This is actually a very important topic. People who say that they understand something. People who really understand, it's guaranteed that these people do not understand anything. The one who is not humble in this process, who is not loving, who is arrogant, who thinks that he's better than the other. I guarantee you that he doesn't understand anything. The difference is the material world. Everyone says, look, my diplomas, my certificates, my papers. I am the maximum certified. All the titles. One maximum certified. All those are just some jokes. They don't have, all these things have no importance. In moment of death, doesn't help you. Oh, I have a Nobel Prize. Let it come here. So we realize in this moment of death, those things has no consideration. In Bhakti Yoga, It is the science of the humbleness. This means that the devotees of Krishna, they have immense knowledge, big knowledge. But this immense knowledge does not make them feel that they know much more or they know a lot. Srila Prabhupada said, the one the one who really has the knowledge is the one who is from whom nobody is trying to escape. And the one who is going to escape from you, it means that you don't have this person. You cannot say, oh, but you're my student or you're my disciple. Come here, back. The formalism of this world. It has value only in front of the autocrat. And the autocrat is the one who has the last word. But do you know what's the beautiful of this autocrat? He gave you a free will to you. It's very interesting to speak about the autocrat and about the free will, but what is interesting is actually that the autocrat has given to you the free will to decide. So about this topic we can speak actually a lot, but I don't know you so well, all of you. You also don't know a lot about me. And this is a day of the week. So I also imagine that the time is a little bit limited. So that's why I will want to open for you to bring your questions. The only thing I made here is to provoke you to a little bit move. And if any question arises, so it's very welcome. And provocations, the provocation has no bad intention. It's just to bring more quality in our development. Let's see who's going to break the ice. Here a person is asking a question. What you're saying is actually not a question, but this is your observation. It's an impression. Uh, it's not a strange thing, actually, what you're saying. This is what you have to. You have to assimilate that some people of the devotees are going to give you a hand to help you, the others will not. Some will give you good information, the others not. Srila Rupa Goswami have solved this very nicely. He said that there are three relationships between the devotees. Those people who are under your realizations. To them, you give them your hand. Offer them help. There are people who are like fighting or struggling same way like you. There we embrace in friendship. And the third ones, which I feel that they are advanced, to them I listen with very big attention, and I offer them my support. I offer them service. If you apply these three principles, your problem is already solved. So who's going to decide actually? Who is less, who is more, who is equal? The answer is only your proper criteria actually can decide. Because you're not stupid. Krishna made you very intelligent so that you find your path with the help of those who Krishna is also going to send to you. And don't lament about anything. Better take what you receive with gratefulness. Of course, I do not know your story. But here in Italy, for example, we've seen many difficulties. But we have always seen many saintly personalities walking this land. So we have to choose the saints and to follow them. Next one. Try to make it concise, because with translation it becomes a little bit complicated. Question coming from a woman. Is it important for you, the spiritual teachers, your past lives, or it's not important? We do not practice something to discover what was exactly our past life in the style of regressions or such things. But we can have individual appreciations. Like these are like gifts of Krishna. one thing is sure, that if we are here in this material world, because we failed something in the past, and this is already very clear. So that's why one has to act very humbly in order to advance. Unless one is not some avatar, this is something else. And Mahaprabhu, he was an avatar. And by Yoga Maya, by the power of his loving power, he had many moments in his life he's the Yuga avatar. He was not remembering that he's the Yuga avatar. Krishna himself, actually, in some pastimes, he doesn't remember that I'm the Lord, I'm God. In his Leela, he takes actually very intimate positions with the devotees. For example, Krishna Balaram and the other coward boys, they were actually playing all kind of different games in the forests. And now if Krishna would always win, he's like, okay, I'm the Lord, that's why I'm going to win everything. There would not be any game. It would be very boring. That's why Krishna do like this, that the devotees forget. And Krishna looks, sometimes he also forgets that he's the Lord. But this is something very confidential. But in the world of the faith, there are many things which are of confidence. We cannot expect that people understand. And we have to understand that we also don't understand everything. We ourselves do not understand what to expect from the others. Big scientists cannot even explain how a flower has been created. It's one small flower, just. No one can repeat this. No one. All the labs in the world have not produced even the first flower yet. Of course, they can take other flowers and to make them to change their colors or to do certain modifications, but from the dead matter to make a flower, they themselves, what to speak about a banana? Srila Prabhupada liked very much he liked very much the hens, and he was saying that actually they're more intelligent than the scientists themselves. Because a hen can actually produce eggs. She's producing calcium, phosphorus, all these ingredients she gets, what she eats, and then she produces one egg. Prabhupada said to the scientists, I will give you all the ingredients you need. Please produce 1 egg. And if you cannot, don't speak any more bad about the hens. The best way how not to speak bad about the hens, this is when you don't eat them. Another question. She's asking, we don't remember the past lives. And this explanation you gave before, that we are making a zigzag flow so that the river reaches the sea. Does it mean that actually in the past life we have been on this way, in this path? Meaning, the religious life we are going to accept is from the past lives. To this kind of hypothesis, I cannot actually answer. Gurdev is answering. Because the hypothesis is actually certain level of speculation. So in order to answer a speculation, I have to speculate myself. My spiritual master told me not to speculate. But I can say that all this can be possible. I cannot negate that this is impossible, cannot be possible. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who have practiced religious life in previous lives, they're like very automatically feeling attracted to religious life in this life again. This is some kind of confirmation of what you have proposed here. But it's possible that in the past life you have had some failure. You fell down. And in this life, you have to fix this failure. It's possible that the same test appears again. Thank you. Can one ask personal questions? Of course. Was something which made you approach faith something certain, something exact? It was some following event, or how? Of course it was. First I lost my faith. That's why I'm sympathizing very much to people who have lost their faith as well. Of course, finally, no one is actually losing his faith. Because when one apparently loses his faith actually is transferred to another area of faith. One can also believe I should not believe. But this is also another type of faith. And this happened to me because I have been educated in Christianity. And it was exactly in Germany after the Second World War. I was just a young boy and opening my senses, realizing what has happened. I realized that people who wanted to teach me religiosity, they have been part of the big disaster in the Holocaust, which has just happened. So I felt very cheated. And I lost faith. But this left me very broken. Very vulnerable. I got to know at that time the hippie movement. They were hippies, but they were not happy. So I was craving actually to again find some kind of faith. And this is how Bhagavad Gita entered into my life. And Bhagavad Gita has acted for me like some light. Because it was explaining the spiritual topics in a much more meaningful way than Christianity. But in parentheses, after studying actually the Vedas and in revising the original Christianity, I have realized that the regions of spirituality in Christianity is also Vedic actually. The principal topics for me nowadays is the things which I have spoken today in the conference and lecture. That when the spirituality becomes dogmatic, institutionalized, just becomes pure regulations, nobody anymore understands what it's all about, what's the point. One has to have a proper opinion to judge the things. But this happens in all parts of the world. Only with the ancestral tribes, I have seen that with very few this has happened actually. For example, in India it's said to become Muni Rishi, like means wise man. You have to have your proper opinion. You cannot just repeat opinions of the other. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Can you repeat this concept? It's very important. It's in India. It said that each Muni has his own opinion. Every Brahmana has to have his proper consideration and to act according to it, not to act on the basis of some institution. This is how have been transferred all the oral mystical paths or knowledge. I'm going to give you one example. If it doesn't look to you very worldly, for thousands and millions of years, the village person was working on the earth and he was picking the best seeds for the next planting sowing, and this was functioning very well. That's why we have thousands and thousands of plants, medical, eatable, all kinds. And what happened today in the European Parliament in Brussels? They are now investigating right now some new law which is prohibiting to plant your own seeds again. And it make it like criminal act to exchange seeds with your neighbor. This is actually institutionalizing the agriculture. Agriculture is actually divine. The earth is divine, water is divine, the soil is divine, the seed is divine, and also the food. And now the institutionalization, it is like the church of the consumption of the multinational companies. If they actually succeed to make this, if we Europeans are such an idiots that we are going to tolerate this, all the biodiversity is finished, and all the free will of the worker of the producers, in 30-40 years the original seeds will not exist anymore. You're going only to have some modified transgenics produced from the industry, which impact on the health nobody actually knows for sure. In this sense, I would like to present myself that although I'm a monk, I'm also working with the guardians of Mother Earth. And in 2015, we have founded the United Nations of the Spirit. And this was founded by the ancestral tribes of America, which they call Abya. And there they have started this scream against these manipulations which people are trying to do with Earth. There is no other better comparison than the original mystic, which becomes institutionalized and it loses the mystic and becomes some horrible monster, transforms itself in a horrible monster. How one can participate in this? Gurudev is asking for some flowers to be brought to him from the United Nations of Spirit. The United Nations of the Spirit, by the way, is not some kind of an institution. Everyone who subscribes to their activities or opinions, they have the right and the duty to make something similar in their surroundings. Because one can organize some cells of raising consciousness or getting consciousness. One can also search for some alliance. We call it to sow and to get the fruits. We are also knitting also. Knitting. When you make together all the knits, it's very difficult to take it away. And in the same way, we have to make the things to we have to make knitting connections between Mediterranean, Pula, all points of Europe, and when some stupidity like this comes, we become opponents. We stand to be against. In the last year, in Colombia, there was 26 days war of the village people against the same law with which they put same kind of restrictions. If you like to know what has happened, and if you understand Spanish, I think that the movie has also subtitles. It is called 9.70. It's called Everything What Has Happened in the Whole History of this Colombian War. Here is the webpage also you can visit to get more information. The devotee is asking if they won. Yeah, Gurudev said we won. 16 days. So this, they said that they don't want to obey. And people, like the government understood that there are millions of people against this law, so they changed it again. Question coming now in Italian. The United Nations of the Spirit, Gurudev is saying, they utilize the biggest force which exists, biggest power. It is like all rights reserved by Mahatma Gandhi style. It's called peaceful non-cooperation of consumption. If we like to show our power, we buy less Coca-Cola, no more products of these companies which are producing this. Actually, only the consumption can practically put down the multinational companies. That's why they're catching all the medias, because they're trying to impact the brains of people. But there is something which they cannot consider, and this is our tongue and our mind we have. And we expect, hope that they don't reach there. So this is the topic of our epoch now, of our age. Another question in Italian now being asked. Can you explain a little more deeper about relations? Are they good? Are they bad? Should we follow them or what? Gurdev's laughing. My friend, he's answering. Use your common sense. I will tell you a story of the samurai. The samurai has been fought he was fighting in many battles. He was the general of the samurais, but he was very tired. And he said, I'm not going to do anything. I want to get to know the truth. So he went away. And there was one small monk, and he asked, hey, small monk, can you tell me what's the truth? What means truth? What means ignorance? And the monk looked at him. He said, you want to know the truth? You're so ignorant, arrogant as you are? And Samurai became very angry. You're insulting me, he said. He was going to take out his knife, and the monk said, this is ignorance. And he and put it back. Okay. And he said, and this is the truth. Ah, the samurai said. Oh, how incredible this monk told me in one moment and made me humble. And the monk told him, listen. Now came the time that you think for yourself. So the proposal of regulation or anarchy, this is complete abstract, very abstract. As I told that you can do your kind of United Nations of the world, but it should be without institution. If it becomes an institution, people will not be able to speak with each other anymore. To plant and to knit, but when I'm knitting, every wool or every knit is actually equal to all the others. Notice that one stands on top of everyone and manipulates them all. In the work of the guardians of the Mother Earth, they're following the seniors, their grandmothers, grandfathers. They're the top preservers and guardians which has existed ever. They're natural guardians themselves of the ancient wisdom. They actually have founded this United Nations of the Spirit, but they invited people like us to participate. That's why go to the website, see what's going on, and then you will figure it out what you can do in all your area. The invisible movements are going to guide us. And this is the faith. This is something beautiful. And even more, for me, everything bad is amazing. Because the bad thing is awakening us. Monsanto has to wake up the Santo inside of you. This is a play of words. Again, like Santo means saint. Another question is being asked in Italian. I would like to bring your attention to this problem. People are taking care of their proper personal advancement. And the discipline which is considering the person is connected with the internal world of the person or only with external. If we only take care of the internal world, we will all be monks. Yeah, here the lecture is finishing. He thinks it's good to bring out internal things to come to the outside, and it is good to. This is what I'm going to say. It's not a pretext. He has difficulty with translation, this devotee. Okay, here it's finishing. Gurudeva Ki Jai.